Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1247, 1247, September 21st, 2020, Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what happened over the past 24 hours as it relates to Spygate. We had on Maria Bartiromo on Sunday morning. She talked to both Jim Jordan and Little Marco, and the first time when she was talking to Jordan, and she said that Comey is going to be doing public hearings in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I thought she maybe misspoke. But then she's talking to Little Marco, and she says the same thing. So clearly she was not misspeaking. She definitely meant to say public hearings. So apparently she's heard that these hearings, it's the first I've heard of it, that Comey coming to testify in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, that it's going to be in public. So that will be very interesting to see. I certainly hope that's the case. I still think, regardless of whether he's in front of the cameras or behind closed doors, there's not going to be any great reveal from Comey. I mean, he's not going to provide any new information that we don't already have. Any information he provides is only going to be to muddy the water. He's not going to tell the truth. I think that there'll be many cases where he will not even answer the question. He'll have a couple of attorneys with him, and he'll say either it's classified information or it's part of an ongoing investigation or what have you. Any tricky question or any question that could cause him a problem, he's just not going to answer it. I expect that what we will see from Comey, though, is that he will, because of Rodenstein and Yates, kind of threw him under the bus in a way. I expect to see Comey try to defend the FBI side and try to put the onus on the DOJ side. That's what I expect to see, but I'm not really sure how he's going to spin that. So we will just have to wait and see how he performs there, but I expect that we're not going to learn anything new from Comey. I don't think there's going to be any great gotcha moments because I don't think they'll ask the right questions. I think that I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see them say exactly what they did to Rodenstein and Yates when they go, well, we don't actually think that you did anything wrong or anything like that. So that's kind of what they did with Rodenstein and Yates. So I'm not really expecting much out of this. I think it's more political theater and election year grandstanding by Lindsey Graham is mostly what we're going to see here. And again, Comey's not going to say anything that would incriminate himself. He is not going to answer any real questions. He'll fall back on as many crutches as he possibly can. And I think that there'll be no real big reveal from the Comey testimony. I don't think it'll change a thing. But that is what Bartiromo was saying, that that's going to be a public hearing with James Comey. Let's wait and see. Now, there's another story that's kind of breaking over the weekend, pretty much related to Spygate. And it has to do with the Weiner laptop. And everybody's still looking for the Weiner laptop, and nobody really knows where it is. Well, the last word we heard on the Weiner laptop, if I remember correctly, it's been a long time, but if I remember correctly, I heard that Weiner's laptop was returned to him. That's what I remember hearing, is that his laptop was returned to him. I mean, when the FBI gets a hold of your laptop or your computer or what have you, they make a copy of your hard drive. Is what they do. I mean, they make a copy of your hard drive. And so they don't really need your computer anymore. Once they've copied your hard drive, it's just a piece of, it's a doorstop as far as they're concerned. They got the hard drive. And, so once they have a copy of your hard drive, they usually give it back to you. It takes a couple of years. But that was the last I heard, was that the laptop was eventually returned back to Anthony's Weiner. But keep in mind, if the FBI followed the normal procedure, they made a copy of the hard drive. So they really don't need his computer. So they got a copy of the hard drive. So anyway, a lot of people are talking about this book that's going to be coming out sometime in October by Devin Barrett. Now, many of you probably remember the name Devin Barrett. He's a hardcore anti-Trumper. He wrote quite a few stories that were pushing the Trump-Russia collusion hoax. His name probably became most prominent when he got caught up in that deal that led to McCabe having to lie to Horowitz and the FBI on 3 occasions. He's the one that wrote the article that prompted McCabe to respond to something Devlin said in the article when he revealed, of course, McCabe's wife running for office and doing campaign donations and things like that. So there was an article that Devlin wrote, Devin Barrett wrote, that is what motivated McCabe to feel like he had to respond to it. And that was the leaked stories that got him into trouble, that he lied about. Now, Devin Barrett has also been covering the Weiner, Anthony Weiner story, like everyone else. But this book, apparently, that is coming out, is apparently Barrett has interviewed this John Robertson, who's the FBI agent who discovered the 600,000 plus Hillary Clinton emails on the Anthony Weiner laptop. And the book tells his story, essentially. And just about everything now that we had talked about back then that we were told was conspiracy theory, couldn't possibly be true, was a bunch of BS, we're now finding out that the book is going to tell us that a lot of those things were true about some of the things that this FBI agent saw that would relate to both the Clintons, having been on Epstein Island, flying on the Epstein Express, the Lolita Express, something having to do with children and some sexual stuff. So I don't know how much of this is going to be revealed in the book, but he lays out the scenario from Mr. Robertson's point of view. It's essentially telling Mr. Robertson's story, this FBI agent who, of course, discovered this stuff. And just about everything that we had learned back then is going to be in this book, which we talked about, which is that, of course, he discovered the 600,000 emails while he was going through Weiner's laptop. This book apparently is going to really target McCabe, Strzok, Priestep, Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Priestep, and even Sally Yates. All their names come up, and of course Loretta Lynch. All their names come up, and the point of the book is that Devlin's whole idea in the book is that everything we learned a couple years ago was true. That there was an attempt to squash this. That this FBI agent discovers this. He makes it known to the powers that be, that being McCabe specifically and Yates, and then eventually Strzok put in charge of it. And they sat on it for a month. And he's watching the election get closer and closer. He knows what he saw. He knows that there should be some action going on, but there is no action going on. He begins to worry that he's going to be scapegoated. He writes an email to himself to document what his thoughts are at the time, and he goes, consults an attorney as well as 2 senior members of his of the FBI there where he works, including the case agent, the senior case agent overseeing the case. It also is going to tell us in the book that that Comey gave the direction when he was asking about getting a subpoena so that they could actually look at these emails or have someone in the FBI look at these emails. And apparently he was told by Comey, and I don't know if he was told directly by Comey or he was told by Comey through another person, that he should erase his findings, meaning erase any evidence of his even investigating this laptop. And that is what caused him to go see the U.S. attorney who was overseeing the case, as well as to send this email to himself, because now he realizes, wow, they're really going to try to cover this thing up. And when Comey tells him, hey, go ahead and erase your work, meaning erase any evidence that you even did an investigation or even discovered anything, he realized then at that point that there was going to be a concerted effort not to investigate this. And he felt like at some point this was all going to come out and then it would eventually be dropped on him. And he was going to make sure that he wasn't scapegoated. So he goes to this U.S. attorney. Of course, we know about the call with Loretta Lynch where she threatened certain FBI agents with possible investigation or prosecution regarding the Garner case. So certainly, and also he mentions that Sally Yates was advised of what was going on. So it's going to be an October surprise book, but really it's the target is Comey and the FBI and the DOJ. Now, Devin Barrett is no friend of Trump or Republicans. He's a Democrat, I'm sure. He was up to his eyeballs in pushing fake news about Trump, Russia, and everything else, going back all the way to 2016. And so I'm not sure exactly what's going on with him, other than the fact that he just had this great interview with this FBI agent, and he thinks it's important. Certainly Hillary Clinton is not going to be very happy about this book coming out. From what I understand, it says some things in there that could be a problem for her, as well as some of these other players who I mentioned. But I guess the thing that jumps out at me is why the timing. Because again, book's going to come out in October. Now, this is certainly not going to help the Democrats. It doesn't really affect Biden personally or Kamala Harris personally. It certainly has nothing to do with Trump or Pence. It's really a book that's targeting, if anyone's being targeted here, it's the FBI and the DOJ. Anyone who was new and was part of this trying to cover up what was on the Weiner laptop. Because they were trying to cover it up. The only reason that Comey was forced to do what he did was because of this FBI agent who discovered this stuff by his going to a U.S. attorney and blowing the whistle. That is pretty much what forced Comey's hand. Because they were going to they had been sitting on it for a month. So Comey's hand was forced by Mr. Robertson. And I think that that's the story that Devin Barrett's going to tell. But why put out the book now? I mean, why do it in October? Everything that happens in the political world in October happens for a reason. So you got to wonder what's going on here. And I guess my first thought on this, and I don't know this, I'm just speculating, is that maybe Barrett has heard from some of his sources that there's some heavy stuff coming down from the Durham investigation before the election. And maybe he's heard that some of it is going to get into the Weiner laptop and how they covered up, information. How they covered up, what the fact that the Rotten Reverend Clinton had 600,000 plus emails on the Weiner laptop, and how they tried to cover it up and not investigate it or whatever. Maybe Barrett has heard that some of this information is going to be coming out in the Durham report. I don't know. And maybe this caused Mr. Robertson either to contact Mr. Barrett or vice versa. And they're trying to get out ahead of something. Usually when something is put out like this in an election year and it's not coming from one of the two campaigns, and I don't think this is, it's because someone is trying to get out ahead of something. And with Durham investigation, I don't think it's completed, but we certainly are hearing that, and Barr has essentially said that we're going to get something in an interim report that's going to give us some information, and there may be something that comes out. There may be some indictments. So maybe it has something to do with the fact that something's going to be released from Durham or Barr that has something to do with the Weiner laptop or things that were done by the FBI. Maybe this is one of these things. So anyway, I just think the timing is interesting. I don't know that there's a lot of new information here. We're going to find out. But a lot of the things that I heard or that I saw in the story, which this story is from Jerry Dunleavy in the Washington Examiner, and I think Tracy Beans also did a video on it as well. So I don't think there's anything really new here that we weren't hearing back then. It's just interesting that it would be drudged up again at this point, so close to the election. But it's just another. It's another nail in the coffin of the FBI. Now maybe Devin Barrett has heard that there's indictments coming down on some of these people, and their names are about to be splattered all over the headlines as being indicted. And I mean, he's the guy who's like any other journalist, the opportunity to peddle a book. It'd be awfully nice to have a book out at the very same time, a book that's critical of these players at the very same time that they're being indicted or what have you. That would be good timing for Mr. Barrett if you're trying to sell a lot of books. And by that time, there's no need to try to protect Comey or any of these people anymore because they're being taken down by Barr and Durham. So, they're going down anyway. Might as well capitalize if you're someone like Devin Barrett and drop your book and have it be one of the first books out there that talks about the corruption of these guys at the same time that they're being taken down, because now everyone's going to want to read the book. After all, if Barr and Durham come out and indict these guys and their names are being plastered all over the headlines as having been indicted for the things they were involved in, why not have a book out talking about the other things that they were involved in? So I'm not really sure what's going on, but I bet you there is something that motivated Barrett to release this book now, and it may have something to do with what Barr and Durham have coming. So Shipwrecked Crew, who, a lot of you probably follow his stories. I know I do. Don't know who that person's name is. Don't know if it's a man or a woman. I just know that they're a former DOJ prosecutor. Worked for the DOJ as a prosecutor for 20 years and then went into, I think, private legal practice or whatever. But they know a lot about the DOJ, whoever they are, and they've been pretty solid on a lot of the reporting. And Shipwrecked Crew put out a tweet on Saturday saying that it's coming next week. That would indicate this upcoming week that we're in right now. And that there would be both indictments and a report. Now, this is kind of my line of thinking as well. I don't have any insider information. But last week, of course, I did a video where I said my gut is telling me that something is going to happen before the end of September. I don't think they're going to wait to do this in October. I think it's going to happen in the month of September. My best guess is it will be this coming Friday or the following Monday. Either Friday or Monday, I think, is when it's going to drop. I'm certain there's going to be some sort of an interim report released by Barr on behalf of the Durham investigation, what they have at this point. As far as indictments, I didn't say that I think that there'll be indictments, but I think that there could be. But Shipwrecked Crew is saying that it is coming. It's coming this week, and that it will include indictments and a report. So if you're going to put out the report, it does kind of make sense that you would want to have some indictments. If you just come out with a report, just the report, probably doesn't have as much gravity, as much impact. So I think if you had a couple of indictments and you released a report as well, and you say, okay, here's some of the indictments, but there'll be more, because, I mean, obviously this is going to continue. So I think that's I don't know if this is from insider information he's getting or if it's, gut instinct. For me, it's gut instinct. I have no insider information. It's just gut instinct. My gut's telling me that this week is when this thing's going to come out. Either Friday or Monday. And I think probably better possibility of Friday. Maybe Thursday. So I do believe it's going to be the end of this week or at the very beginning of next week. Before October 1st, I believe. At the very least, an interim report, and possibly will include indictments as well. And I would not be surprised if there are several indictments and a report. That would make good sense to me. And I think that that's going to happen this week, which means this week is just going to be crazy. Okay, with everything else we got going on, with the death of Ruth Buzzy Ginsburg, and then of course the wild weekend with all the hot air being blown around on all sides. Generally, I'm trying to avoid the politics of things, but I think I'll just make a brief comment on my thoughts on this. Pelosi, of course, was on ABC over the weekend, Sunday morning, I believe, with Stephanopoulos, and she says basically going to use every arrow in the quiver. They really have no arrows in the quiver. I mean, this is simply the executive branch, the White House, Trump, and the Senate. The House really has no role to play in a Supreme Court justice. But Pelosi is suggesting that there's things they can do in the House to upset the apple cart and throw a wrench into the spokes. They've gotten beaten so badly every time they've tried this stuff. Trump gained points after the impeachment. The Democrats took the beating on the impeachment. The Russia hoax didn't help. They took a beating on that. The Democrats have taken a beating on everything they've tried to do. And this idea that they would try to do impeachment because Trump is going to try to name a nominee before the election. It's, he's still the president for 4 more months, even if he loses the election, which he's not going to. But even if he lost, he's still the president. He doesn't leave office till January 19th at noon, or January 20th at noon. So he still has plenty of time. He's going to make the nomination. It's always been done before. So I don't think that the Democrats are quite crazy enough to try to impeach Trump because he's going to make this nomination. But I think Pelosi let something slip when she was talking to Stephanopoulos. She made some reference to the fact that Trump was lying about coronavirus, and that would be riding coattails on this story from Bob Woodward that Trump told the country one thing and told him another. There's no there. That's just ridiculous. It's not anything impeachable about that at all. And that's why I would be very surprised. There's really nothing that the Democrats can do except for talk and threaten. Oh, if you do, we're going to have riots. Well, quite honestly, that would only help Trump. I don't see how Trump can lose in this deal. Nominate a good conservative female judge, get her confirmed, and he wins. He jacks up his base. He energizes and mobilizes his base. He demoralizes the Democrats because they will be demoralized if Trump is successful along with McConnell at getting his nominee through before Election Day. That will suck the life. It'll make them very angry, but they're already a bit angry. They've been angry for 4 years now. You can only build up so much anger. I think the effect that it will have will most likely be to demoralize the Democrats because, that's a big deal. Supreme Court justice in a 6-3 court, and they know there's really nothing they can do about it. I think that will be demoralizing. That's not going to be a motivating factor for Democrats to go out and vote for Biden. The damage is done. It's not about a Supreme Court pick anymore. The pick's made. She's on the court. That's demoralizing. It's a huge loss. So, I think Trump wins, and that's icing on the cake. Now, if Pelosi decides to try some sort of a stunt, like an impeachment stunt, that will only backfire even worse. And then, as some of these Democrats are threatening, there'll be riots, as if anybody is going to be intimidated by the threat of riots. We've been getting riots now all summer long. No one's going to be intimidated by the riots. They'll only just get more angry. If anything, that will play again into Trump's hand. He'll get a big win if he gets his nominee appointed before Election Day. It'll make sure that we don't have a even court, so that if the election does go into the courts, and I think it's very likely it will, you're at least not going to have to worry about a split decision, and you're going to have a 6-3 majority of conservatives on the court. So I think that's all a win. If it forces Pelosi to try to pull some stunt, some impeachment stunt, everyone will see that for exactly what it is. It's an impeachment stunt, and that will backfire. If the appointment causes people to go out and riot, that'll help Trump too. I mean, Trump wins on every point here. I mean, will the Democrats go that nutty that they will take an L on every one of these? They'll take an L on him getting his Supreme Court nominee picked. They'll take an L when the riots start. They'll take an L on a failed effort, political impeachment. I mean, they're all losses. There's no wins there. And they can't afford any more losses right now. I think Trump's going to win in a landslide, personally. Yes, I do believe it will go into the courts. But I think Trump's going to win in a landslide. I think he'll win the popular vote and the Electoral College. And I think he'll get somewhere. I think he'll probably be getting somewhere close to 400 Electoral College points. I don't think it's going to be that close. I think that they may pick certain places that they would like to challenge. But if Trump wins so big that I think it'll be very, very difficult to even take it into the courts if it's a really big win. That's why I really hope everybody gets out and votes, because a very, very big both win and popular vote and Electoral College vote would pretty much suck the wind out of the sails of the Democrats' efforts to try to do any type of a legal fight about it. You're not going to have a president that wins in a landslide, Electoral College landslide, and also wins a popular vote, and then the courts overturn it. That's just not a realistic scenario. But the Democrats, I don't know if they're nutty enough to do anything at this point. I'll put nothing past them. Maybe they feel like it's the nuclear option and that they're done, they're toast. And let's keep in mind, this book coming out by Devin Barrett certainly isn't going to help the Democrats, especially on the heels of what I believe will be happening here within this week, I think, within the next 7 days or so. Barr coming out with, at the very least, an interim report on how they tried to steal the election in 2016 and everything they've done since then, possibly some indictments to accompany that. That's certainly not going to help the Democrats' cause. And then, of course, Ron Johnson is supposed to be releasing this information on Biden in the next week or so, which is going to show, Burisma paying a bribe while Hunter Biden's on the board and getting paid. That's not going to help. I mean, I see a lot of bad things coming down the pipe in the next 30 days. But I think even without any of those things, if things just remained as they are right now, I think Trump wins in a landslide. But all these things compiled, I think the Democrats are going to be so demoralized. And I think also Biden's performance in the debates, I expect that they'll jack him up with something. I know there are drugs that you can give someone that can really jazz them up for a couple hours, but there's also side effects to those drugs. They can cause excessive sweating. They can cause you to be looking very nervous. They can cause shaking. They can cause all sorts of side effects with these drugs that they can inject you with, which will get your mind real clear and things like that. But I think Biden's issues are so debilitative and so far in their progression that, I don't know that they're going to be able to, they're not going to turn him into a super debater or anything like that. I think the idea is just to keep him alert and have his mind as clear as possible. But there are side effects with these types of drugs as well. I fully expect that he'll be given the questions beforehand. I have no doubt about that. I assume that they'll allow him to have notes. That shouldn't be the case, but I think that they do allow them to have notes. But you can see even when Biden has notes or a teleprompter, he still boggles things. It doesn't seem to help him. I just think, somewhere in one of those 3 debates, no matter how much prep that they give him and no matter how many drugs they jack him up on, that's 3 1.5-hour debates. I've not seen Biden go more than 5 minutes without making a gaffe. I don't know how in the world he goes 3 1.5-hour debates without having a real senior moment. Probably several of them. And saying some real crazy shit. So I think it's just a combination of all these things. The Durham bomb, whatever that's going to be, I think it's going to happen this week. I think it will absolutely, at the very least, be very damning report. Possibly would include indictments. That's going to have an impact. Trump getting a new justice appointed, if they're successful at that, that's going to totally suck the life out of Democrats and demoralize them because there's nothing they can do to reverse it. Biden having to debate Trump 3 times, I just don't see how that goes well. He's going to lose all 3 debates soundly. The question is, does he completely destroy himself in the process? I mean, they've been hiding him for the last 6 months for a reason. This book by Devin Barrett is certainly not going to help anything. The reaction by the radical, crazy-ass Democrats to do some sort of impeachment or whatever shenanigans they're going to try to play, and we expect they will. You can expect that they'll show their asses in the hearings for this nominee, just like they did with Kavanaugh. I expect you'll have the same crazies pounding on the Senate door as the hearings are going on. I expect that you'll have all sorts of acting up and all sorts of things going on. And you probably will have some more rioting. Every one of these things plays in Trump's favor. Every one of these things. Maybe the Democrats think it'll help jack up their base, but the bottom line is the reality of Biden. I mean, even the Democrats watching the debate, even they will have to admit to themselves, as Biden is literally just having one disaster after another during the debates. Even they will have to admit, man, oh man, we nominated a guy who's literally senile. Literally senile. There's no way. There's no way this guy is going to make it. That'll be demoralizing. Once that justice is named, once the vote has been had, if they pass that and the judge becomes the next Supreme Court justice, again, it's over. So you can't undo that. It's a lifetime appointment. There's nothing they can do. Trying to impeach Trump will have no impact on that. It will be so demoralizing for the Democrats to have to see that happen and then see that the Democrats had no way to stop it, and then to see right before their very eyes, even before we vote, that Biden is literally senile, just like we've been saying all along, not mentally fit for the office. It'll be obvious to everyone, including millions and millions of Democrats watching. They will be so demoralized that by the time Election Day comes around, I don't think there'll be any energy for any of them people to get up and vote whatsoever. While Trump's base will be highly energized. It's going to be quite the show. So that's my thoughts on everything. We'll be paying very careful attention this week, because I do expect this will be the week that something's going to happen. I believe it's going to happen this week. We'll watch and see. See ya. Bye.